Will put my redneck tracker to work, and I will put the puck on number 23, which is split 11. On the redneck tracker sheet I write split 11, which is dozen 2, column 2. Now that's about all I can do until I get a couple more spins. Sometimes it takes 2 spins, sometimes it takes 3 spins. Now this is going to be tricky because there is nobody at the table and I'm going to have to move pretty quickly. So just work with me here. I assume you've got your redneck magnetic tracker, number 18. I put my puck on the number 18, which is split 9. On my redneck tracker sheet I write 9, which is dozen 2, column 3. Now I do have an oldest on the columns, but I don't have an oldest on the dozens because it could be 1 or 3. I have 2 2s written down there, so we just won't do anything for right now. We'll wait for another spin. I now have 2 magnets on my redneck tracker. They're on the splits 9 and 11. And we get to 17, so I will put a magnet on number 17, which is split 8. 8 is the second dozen and the second column. I still don't have a complete idea of who's the oldest, because in my dozens column I have 2, 2, and 2. So the oldest could be 1 or 3. We don't know which one to eliminate, so we just have to wait. Now in the columns we have 2, 3, 2. So we know there that the number 1 is the oldest. So I guess we could go ahead and bet the number 3 column, but I'm just going to wait on that. The 2 and 3 columns actually. But I'm just going to wait until I get both of them. Usually you get it the second spin, but we didn't today, so what is that, 36? Okay, I'll put my puck on number 36, which is the 18 split, and that is dozen 3, column 3. Now we have a place to bet, and I'm going to bet the 15-18, the 14-17, the 20-23, and the 33-36. Now on my dozens the oldest is the 1. On my columns the oldest is also the 1. So that means I could bet no dozens that is number 1, no splits that it falls in the number 1 dozen, and I could bet no columns that fall in the number 1 column. Okay, let's see what I get here. It looks like 36. No, it's 30. Okay. All right, now I put my puck on number 30, which is the number 15 split. I immediately rebet and bet that 27-30. Now I'm ready to go. Now I write down my 15, which is dozen 3, column 3. So nothing changed. I still have the 1 dozen, which is the oldest, and the 1 column, which is the oldest. So now I will bet, I'm betting 5 splits, which is 10 numbers. That's about as high as it ever goes, unless the 0 hits. And I do this crazy thing with 0 because I just like to. You got to do something for fun every once in a while. Okay, let's see what the devil spins up here. Looks like number 4. Okay, I put the number 4, which is the 1 split. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. Now my bets are down. Now I go and I look. The number 1 is the 1 and the 1. Now that changes everything. I go up in my dozens column until I come to the 2 and to draw a line. I go up into my columns until I come to the 2 and draw a line. Now the 2 column and the 2 dozen is the oldest. So I have to take out the 2 column and the 2 dozen. And on my magnetic tracker I take my pucks off the 2 dozen and the 2 column. Now I only have the 3rd dozen and the 1st column. And let's see what we get. Looks like number 2. Couldn't have been number 4. Okay, I immediately rebet, and I bet the 2-5. Now, I go back, I put my puck on the number 2, which is the number 1 dozen, the 2 column. Okay, that does not change the dozens. I still have the oldest being the 2, but it does change the columns because now my oldest is the 3. So what I have to do is take out everything that's in the 3 columns. There it goes. And I move the magnets off of my redneck tracker, and that leaves me with 2 bets. Now what I'm doing is drawing a line on this redneck tracker sheet. I draw a line so that I don't have to look back any further than the line, and that will show it. Okay, that's the 35. Now that is split number 17. Now what I do is rebet. Whoa, that was 33. Error, error, error. 33 is split number 18. So I rebet, and I bet 33, 36. He was just here a minute ago, dadgummit. Okay, that is the 3rd dozen and the 3rd column. Okay, that changes the columns. Now, I cannot have anything in the 1 column, so I have to take this guy out, and I take it off my redneck tracker. Now I'm down to 2 bets. That is aggravating when the 18 split hit just 1, 2, 3, 4 splits ago, and I messed up. Okay, what do we get? We get the 32. Okay, we put the puck on the 32. We do this, and we bet the 32. Okay, now the 32 is dozen 3, which doesn't change anything. That's the, well, let's see, that's the 17. And it's also the 2, and that does not change anything on the columns. So I'm good to go. I don't have to clear anything off my tracker. One thing you'll notice if you ever play this is you'll really see how long these dozens and columns can sleep, because it'll be written right here on your redneck tracker sheet. You just have to look back until the last time you underline something, and that will be how many dozens and columns you have missed. Okay, here we go. What did we get? 0, right next to the 32. Okay. Now then, now there's one of those things where and of course I don't do anything with my sheets because that's a 0. I do draw a green line under the 17 because that tells me where 0 come. I just might want to know. But what I like to do is consider the 0 a split, and I'll bet the 0, 3 because the 1st dozen is in play. And so I like to bet the 0 on the 3 because I think 3 and 0 are related. Well, they just came. 3 and 0 just came together. Did I screw up on that last spin? What the hell happened on that last spin where the 3? See, I don't know where that 3 came from that I'm seeing right up here. That's the old 2-cat mistake right there. Wouldn't that just... Now I don't know what to do. Okay. Okay, I do know what to do. I have to start over. Ah, dang. I'm going to go back and watch this video and see where that 3 came from. Okay, I'm just going to start over with the 16. I'm going to clear everything off. The 16 is the 7. So I'll mark the 7, which is the 1. It is the 2 dozen and the 1 column. I'm just going to start over. That's all I know to do. I don't know where that 3 came from. There's a 1. Okay. Now I'm going to write down 1, 1, and 1. Now, okay, I do not have the oldest on the column. I do have it on the dozens, but we'll just wait. Dang. I guess she's spinning so fast I was talking and just didn't see it. I would start this video over, but I want to go back and see just exactly where I screwed up. Okay, I have a puck on the 1 and the 7 splits. And the number, what, 28, 29. The number 29 comes, and that is the 14 split, which is the third dozen, second column. Now I have an oldest. Now I'm going to bet those three. I'm going to bet the 1, 4. I'm still going to bet that 0, 3 because I like it. And I'm going to bet the 13, 16. And I'm going to bet the 26, 29. Now I go back to my track sheet. My oldest dozen is the second. So I can't have anything in the second dozen. Immediately got to take him out. And my oldest column is the third column. I don't have anything in the third column, so I'm okay there. Okay, number 6. Okay, number 6 is the 3 split, which is the first dozen and the third. So I'm going to rebet. I'm going to bet that 3, 6. Now I'm going to go look at my track sheet. 1, 3, 1. That's the dozens. On the dozens, the oldest is still the 2, but on the columns, the oldest is now the 1 column. Anything in the 1 column has to go out. There he goes. Number what? 21? 19. Okay, number 19 is the 10 split, which is the second dozen and the first column. Alright, I'm going to rebet. I'm going to place that 1922 right there. Now I'm going to go look at my sheet. Okay, I've got a new oldest dozen, which is the 3. I draw a line. Anything in the third dozen has to go out. That's gone. Now, 1, 3, 2. I have a new oldest column, which is the second. I don't have anything in the second column, so I'm okay. What? 18. Okay, the 18 is the number 9 split. So I put in the 9 and I will bet the 15, 18. Now the reason I'm betting first is because I'd rather have a, alright, the 9 is the second dozen, third column. That changes nothing. So I'm good to go. The reason I place my bets first is because I'm trying to eliminate stupid mistakes, and I'd rather bet 50 cents and have it on the wrong split. I'd rather have it on a split I should have taken off of but didn't, rather than not bet a split because it just seems that they hit. When you forget to bet them, they seem to hit. Okay, the next split is, what is that, the 12? Is the 12. So I put on the 12 a puck on the 12, and that is the 6 split. Now I'll bet the 9, 12. There he is. Now that is the first dozen and the third column. 1, 2, 2. Nothing has changed. I should have had a winner by now, but since I had to stop and retrack, that probably threw me off. Usually you get a winner about every 5 to 10 splits. Okay. There's 29. That was a winner a while ago. It's not now. Okay, go back on the 29, which is the number 14 split, third dozen, second column. Okay, that changes some things. Okay, I've got to put this in and bet the 26, 29. Okay, now then, the second dozen becomes the oldest. So everything in the second dozen has to go out. And the first column becomes the oldest. There's nothing in the first column, so we're okay there. $14. Okay, that's the 8 split. So I'll write the 8 and I will bet the 14, 17. Okay, that is the second dozen, second column. Now that changes my dozens. My first dozen is now the oldest, so my 2 that are in the first dozen have to go out. I'll take them out. And let's see, it does not change my columns, so we leave those. So now we have actually 2 bets in my 0 bet. I like to bet that 0. Green on the screen. Oh, 26. Did I get a winner finally? I sure did. Now, when you get a winner, you do nothing but rebet because everything's going to be the same. Now, I'm going to take my 3 bet out because my 0 is gone, but everything's the same. But you do go ahead and write your split down, which was the 14 split, and I circle it so I know it's a winner. 3, 2. So nothing has changed. I just relax and hope for another hit. If any of you guys have followed my bank balance, you know I was at $724 and now I am at a scrawny, measly ass $153. And the reason that is because of the stupid mistakes, just like that 3 right back there. And I'm working so hard to quit that, but it isn't easy. Is that the 11? The 11 is the number 5 split. So we write down the 5 and we bet the 8, 11. Okay, now that is the first dozen and the second column. It does not change my columns. They're all 3s and 2s, but it does change my dozens. My second dozen is now the oldest. Anything in the second dozen has to go out, which is this guy. And I take the puck off of my redneck tracker. I have a puck right here and a puck right here, so I can see exactly. I just look at my tracker and look at my carpet up there, and if they're the same, I know my bets are right, unless I miss the 3. I sure wish number 8 had hit just for fun. Number 6. Number 6 is that's that 3, 6 again. Okay. I rebet these and I put in the 3, 6. Now then, that is the first dozen. Okay, I write down the third split, which is the first dozen and the third column. Okay, that doesn't change anything. I still have the 2 is my oldest dozen, which I have nothing in, and the 1 is my oldest column. I've missed the first column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. A martingale player would jump on that first column. Martingale players say, hey, he can't sleep forever. He got a hit sooner or later. Might be later. What's that? Is that the 11? No, that's a damn 10. Okay, the 10 is the 4 split. So I write down the 4, which is the first dozen and the first column. That's going to change things. Now, I rebet and I put in the 7-10 split. But now, my oldest dozen, or column rather, is the 2 column. So anything in the 2 column has to go out. There he goes. There he goes. And I change my tracker. is that? Number 1. That's the 1 split, so that's the 1, the 1, and the 1. So nothing changes. I just bet that 1, 4 split. And of course we get the 2, which is a 2 split, and I will put in that 2, 5. Now I go and look at my track sheet. The 2 is the first dozen, the second column. Okay, that changes the columns. It doesn't change the dozen, but it changes the columns. The 3 column is now the oldest, so this fellow has to go. Okay. About time for the 0. What's that, the 30? Okay, the 30 is the number 15 split. Okay, I put in the 2730. And the 15 is the third dozen, third column. Now, let's see. That doesn't change anything on the dozens, but it does on the columns. Now, the columns, the number 1 column is the oldest. So these 2 guys have to leave the party. As you might figure, this is not going well. Anytime you try to show somebody something, it never goes well. So, $17, that's the 8. So I bet the 14, 17. Okay, the 8 is the second dozen and the second column. Okay, it doesn't change my columns, but it does change my dozens. It makes my number 1 dozen the oldest. So my 2, 5 has to go on the bench. One thing that has hurt today is there have been no back-to-back numbers, because you always win on a back-to-back number. There's the 2. We were there just a minute ago. Okay. That is the 2, which is the number 1 dozen, number 2 column. So I put in the 2, 5, and that changes my dozens, but not my columns. My third dozen is now the oldest, so he goes out. I'm kind of surprised a while ago when I got that winner that I didn't get 2 or 3 in a row, because that's usually the way it works. $19. That is the number 10 split. So I put in the 1922 and check to see. Alright, the 10 split is the second dozen, which is no change there, and the first column. Okay, that makes my third column go out. There wasn't anything in the third column anyway, so makes me wonder if there should have been. No, I guess the second dozen too. That's the thing about this. The dozen or the column can wipe out a split. Oh, Did I bet wrong? No. Either the dozen or the column can wipe out a split. Like this 14 split, it could be wiped out by the second dozen becoming too old, or it could be wiped out by the second column becoming too old. 25. Okay, that's the 13 split. So I'll put in the 25, 28. Okay, and that is the third dozen in the first column. Okay, that changes my dozens because my first dozen is now the oldest. There goes my 2-5 again. This is just like anything else. You get into a situation where everything you do is wrong. Like a while ago when I was on the 2-5 and it came, and now, you know, it's gone. It might hit again, but, you know, the 22 might hit too. So $23, which is the 11 split. So I put in the 2023. Okay, and that is the second dozen, which is good, and the second column, which is good. So I don't have to take anybody out. Okay, now I have 8 numbers bet. Oh, we got a player. Well, we'll slow down just a little bit now. And what did we get? The 20? Well, I'll be darned, I got a winner. Okay, since that's the 20, you do nothing because it's a winner. You just rebet. But I do put in that 11 split. That's a back-to-back win. I put in the 11 split, which is the 2 and the 2. Now, with a little luck, I'll get a run. I'll get a run of about 3 or 4. I'm down 20 units or $10. I started at 156.32 and now I'm at 146.32. If I lose this. Alright, what do we got here? Bounce around, you son of a gun. 32. Well, we're not there. Okay, the 32 is the number 17 split, which is the third dozen, which does not change my dozens. Second column, which does not change my columns. So I just add the 32, 35. Now I got 10 numbers bet. Okay. I'm really scared of that 0 now because that 32 hit, and they sometimes hit right together, the 0, 32, 26. Not this time. That's the 30 again, isn't it? Nope, that's the 23. Another winner. Ho, 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 ho. Okay, all I got to do is rebet and put in the 11 split. See what I said? What did I say? They hit in batches. 11, 2, 2. Y'all have to excuse me for a minute. I got to give myself a shot. Okay, the 16 hit. Now rebet. The 16 is the 7 split. I got to hurry now. The 7 is the second dozen, which nothing changes. The first column, which nothing changes. So all I got to do is put in the 13, 16, and I'm good to go. Okay, now I'm betting a dozen numbers. Okay. Number 1. Okay, that's the 1 split, which is a 1, 1. Okay, that does not change. Okay, let me put in the 1, 4. That does not change my columns, but it does change my dozens. Number 3 is now the oldest dozen. So these two guys have to go on the bench. What is that? 28. Okay, the 28 is the 13 split. I will bet 25, 28. Oh. Okay, 28 is the 13 split, which is the first dozen and the third column. Okay, that changes my columns. Everything in the second column has to go. Okay, now did it change my dozens? Nope, I'm still on the 1 and 2 dozens. So nothing changed there. $22. Alrighty, there's me a little winner. Okay, I wondered when he's going to show up. Now I do nothing but rebet, but I put in my split number, which is 10, and I circle it for a win, and 10 is the 2, 1. And I'm ready to go, and I'm ready to give myself a shot. Okay. Okay. What is that? 5. Okay. I bet the 2, 5. Okay. The 5 is the number 2 split, which has just killed me today, which is the first dozen. That's good. And the second column. Okay. That changes things, because the third column has to go out now. But there's nothing in the third column, so I'm still right where I was. Okay. Man, that 2, 5. That's hurt me. Okay, I got to give myself a little shot here. A little shot of Enbrel. Here we go. Ow! Do you ever have to give yourself shots? Is that the 20? Okay. The 20. I bet the 2023. Okay, the 20 is the 11. Dadgummit, how did we get off of that? That thing hit again. The 11 split, which is the second dozen and the second column. So that doesn't change anything. Hey. This is where Bob and I disagree, because he puts his splits back in and I don't. Once they're gone as far as I'm concerned. So, okay. Okay, what do we got here? 15, that's not a winner. The 15 is the 9 split, so I put in the 15, 18. The 9 split, which is the second dozen and the third column. Okay, that changes. Now my first column is the oldest. Oh my gosh, everybody in the first column has to leave. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now on my dozen, the oldest dozen is still the third, which I don't have anything there anyway. $27. That's the 15 split, so I put in the 27.30. Okay, and that is the third dozen and the third column. Okay, it doesn't change my columns, but it makes the first dozen the oldest, so this split has to go out. Number 9. That is the 6 split, so I put in the 9, 12, and that is the first dozen and the third column. So it doesn't change my columns, but it makes the second dozen obsolete. So this guy and this guy out. Now I'm down to just two splits. Every time I make a mistake, like I did back there on that 3, I just happened to catch that because I said I like to bet the 3 and the 0 together, and I looked up there and saw the 3. But it makes me wonder how many mistakes that I make that I don't catch. So number 5. Number 5. That's that 2-5. He's just eating me alive, isn't he? Okay, that's the 2 split, which is the first dozen. Nothing changes there. And the second column, nothing changes there. So I just bet the 2-5. As you might expect, this is the absolute worst trot that I have had since I started playing this system. The absolute worst. Number 4. Okay, that's the 1-4, which is a 1-1-1. It does not change the dozens, but it does change the columns. Okay, I put in the 1-4. And now my third column is the oldest. So these two guys have to go out. And I'm back to 2 bets. And I'm down almost $20 from where I started. Isn't that a bummer? 17, which is the number 8 split. So I put in the 14, 17. Okay, the 8 is the second dozen, the second column. Okay, that changes my dozens. I have to take out the third dozen, which there was nothing there anyway, so that's okay. It does not change my columns. So now my oldest is the third dozen in the third column. There is it. Nope, that's the 6. Why can't I get the 2, 5? Okay, that's the 3. Okay, and that is the first dozen and the third column. Okay, that takes out, that does not change my dozens, but it takes out the first column. First column becomes the oldest. He's gone. Oh, my aching back. Of all the dealers, Norman's is the worst one to shoot the bull. That guy will find somebody across the room at the baccarat table or the craps table or wherever they are, and he'll stand there and shoot the bull sometimes when there's nobody at the table. The timer's run out, and then it's like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be spinning, aren't I? 21. That's the number 12 split, which is the second dozen in the third column. So that doesn't change anything. I just put in the 21, 24. Even though I'm not winning, ever since I restarted after making that mistake on the 3, I really believe I'm playing it correctly. So it makes really no difference whether you're winning or losing. I just made the video to show you how to play it correctly. I'd like to win, but you know. What is that? The 30 or 36? 36. Okay. That's the 18 split, which is a 3-3. So I bet the 33, 36. Now that changes. My first dozen has to go out. And there goes my 2, 5 again. And the column stays the same. The oldest column is still the first column. There's nothing there anyway. So my first dozen, my oldest column. My first dozen, my first column are the oldest. $32. Back to almost getting a 0 again. Okay, that's the number 17, which is third dozen, second column. Okay, nothing changes, so I just put in the 32, 35. Now I'm betting 8 numbers. Now, if you're wondering how low I'd go, I'm going to have to quit here pretty quick because I've got to go walk the dogs and get ready to go to the Riverwind Casino this afternoon at Norman, Oklahoma. And the dogs have got to have their little time. So I'm not going to stick with this much longer. But the other day I went down a full $50. And I started hitting like a banshee. And I came back within about 8 or 10 spins. What's that? The 6? Ah, I was there just a minute ago. Okay, that's the number 3, which is the 1 dozen and the 3 column. So I'll bet the 36. And let's see what that changed. Okay, that made my second dozen the oldest. So they go. It did not change my columns. My column is still, the number 1 is still the oldest. I have not had one repeating number since I mean the actual number, like the 6 followed by a 6. I haven't had one repeating number. And that hurts, because those repeating numbers are always wins. So, what's that? 19. We were just there a minute ago. Maybe Ugly Bob's got the right idea. Okay, that's the number 10. And that is the second dozen, first column. Okay, and so we bet the 1922. Okay, now that changes everything. Now the third dozen is the oldest, so these guys have to go out of the third dozen. And the second column is the oldest. There's nobody there anyway, so that's good. Okay. $28, $29, $29. That's the 14 split, which is the third dozen, second column. Once again, everything changes. Huh. Oh my. So I bet the 26, 29. And now, my oldest dozen is the 1. So he's out. My oldest column is the 3. There's still nobody there, so that's okay. 29 is one of the numbers that has repeated a lot for me over the time I've been playing. I had 3 in a row the other day, and I was on all 3 of them. $11. That's the number 5 split, which is the first dozen, the second column. So I bet the 811. And that changes the dozens. Now the second dozen has got to go. The columns is still, the third column is the oldest. The second dozen is the oldest. Make sure I have no pucks, no bets in that. So. This has really been a dry spell. It's been about close to 15 spins since I had my last win. There's a double number, finally. Okay. And I rebet that one. It's the 5, the 1, the 2. I do nothing but just rebet. Come on, 29, hit for me one time. Oh, damn, I almost got that 11 again. 36, which is the 18, which is a 3, 3. So I'll bet the 33, 36. And that does not change the dozens, but it does change the columns. Now the number 1 is the oldest column, but there's nothing there anyway, so we're in good shape. Nothing there. The second dozen, nothing there. Yep, okay. All right, okay. $24. So that's the 21-24 split, I would bet. And that is the 12, which is the second dozen, third column. So that changes now. I have to draw my line, and my first dozen is gone. So there goes my 8-11. $31. Son of a gun. That's the 16. So I bet the 31-34. Okay, that might change things. That is the third dozen, first column. It changes the columns. Now my column, the oldest column, is number 2. So the 26-29 has to go out. My oldest dozen is still the first, which was nothing there anyway. I'm coming up on 70 spins, and this is the worst trot since I have been playing this little system. So, who knows? Number 5, again, the 2 split, which is the first dozen, second column. Okay, bet the 2-5. Now that changes my dozens to where my second dozen is now the oldest. So this guy has to leave. And it changes my columns to where the third column is now the oldest. So this gentleman has to leave, and I'm down to 2 bets. I guess I should have walked the dogs first. Well, what do you know? Finally got that son of a gun. All I do is rebet and enter on my redneck tracker sheet that the number 2 came, and I was on it. Circle it for a win. Is that the 35? Okay, that's the 17 split, which is the third and the second. That doesn't change anything. So I just bet my 32-35. Now, what I have noticed in the very short time I've been playing this, what you do is you get a sleeping dozen and a sleeping column. just say for instance the first dozen and the first column both went to sleep at the same time. That means all of your hits are going to have to come in the other two columns and the other two dozens. And when that happens, it's just a matter of time until you hit one of the splits that you're betting on. That's kind of the way I saw it working. Okay, what do we got here? 35. Look at that noise. Number 17 split. Circle that puppy. 3 and 2. Now, this raises the question. Some of you might be saying, well, why don't you just bet for repeat numbers? Because when you won, you had a repeat on the 11s, you had a repeat on the 5s, and then you had a repeat on the 35s. Pause that thought for just a minute. Remember how a few minutes ago I said, man, we have had no repeating numbers. And look at this. There's a way, and there it is, and there it is. Just like that. What doesn't happen for a long time will bunch up on you. Anyway, you may ask, why don't you just bet the repeating numbers? Because you will get a run where the number in the split that didn't make the split will be the one that hits. Like if the 5 hits, that made the split, but then you'll get a bunch of 2s hitting. So that's the 32. Oh, no, that's the 3. Dadgummit, I thought I had the 32. Okay, put a puck on the 3, which is 3. That is the first dozen, third column. Okay, that changes my columns. Now, I bet the 3-6. Okay, now, my dozens are still the 1 and 3. That's the good ones. But my columns, the number 1 column went out because he's now the oldest. So that takes out my 31, 34. Okay, I'm back to a 3 a while ago where I messed up. Didn't miss it this time. So let's see if the 0 hit right after the 3. Wouldn't that be a hoot? I have seen that more times than I've got fingers and toes. What I mean by that is a number will hit and then the exact same number will hit. Like you'll get the 14 followed by the 12. The next time the 14 hits, you'll get another 12. And you think, hey, I got a system here. But you don't. 22. 22 is the number 10 split, which is the second dozen in the first column. So I'll put in my 1922. And that changes. Now my third dozen is the oldest, so he's got to go. And it also changes my columns because the second column is the oldest. And he's got to go. So now my oldest are the third dozen, which I have nothing there. My oldest is the second column, which I have nothing there. So I'm good to go. Come on, Mr. 22. $16? What? 27. 27. That's the 15 split, which is third dozen, third column. So I put in the 27.30. I've been on an hour. I rebet. I put in the 27.30. Okay, that changes my dozens, but not my columns. My dozens has to go out. My columns are, I'm still betting on the 1 and 3 columns. 2 columns the oldest. I could be betting on the 2 and 3 dozens, which I am. $20. That's the 11 split, which is the 2, 2. Okay, I rebet. I put in the 2023. Now, that changes my columns, but not my dozens. Now my number 1 column is the oldest. So my 1922 seconds to go. I'm just not getting many bets this trip. This is where the columns and dozens are really alternating. I'm looking at my Redneck tracker sheet, and I've got lots of lines drawn here. Every time I draw a line, that's a change in the column and dozen, and I've got a lot of lines drawn. So that means I'm getting a lot of changes. Of course, every time you get a change, you quite naturally lose. There's the zero. There that mother is. Only got me for $1 this time. Okay. Now put me a green line right under my last bet. Now then, I believe in green on the screen, so I'm going to bet that 0-3. Come on, zero, get us a back-to-back just for fun. Damn. See how close it got? 32. That's the 17 split, which is the third dozen. That doesn't change my dozens. Second column. That doesn't change my columns. See, I can look at my Redneck tracker sheet real easy and see if, I just go back up with my eyes and see that the 1 is oldest. And I'm not writing down a 1, so I know it's the same as the others. I believe, don't have any way to prove this, someday I'm going to hire Vector to write me a monster program that's going to bet every number from 0 through 36. When they hit, it's going to bet them for the next 10 times. Every number that hits, it's going to bet it for the next 10 times. It's going to use a progression. And it's going to stop after the 10th loss, and then it's going to resume the next time it hits. It's going to be a robot, and it's just going to sit there and make money until it's just sickening. Because I believe 29, I think. Okay, is it 29? That's the 14 split, which is the third dozen, doesn't change anything. Second column, doesn't change anything. So I put in the 26, 29. I have seen so many numbers over the years hit, and then within 10 spins they'll hit again. Won't do it every time, naturally, but over a period of time it seems like every one of them does that. Well, there's the 22 that I used to be on. That's the 10 split, which is the second dozen and the first column. Okay, that changes things. So I bet the 1922, and my columns change. Now the third column is the oldest. So the third column goes out. And my first dozen can no longer be bet because it's neither a column nor dozen for my 3. So I'm going to take that out and put it on the second column, if I can get it there in time. What's that, 13? Yep. The 13 is the number 7, which is the second dozen, which doesn't change anything, and the first column, which doesn't change anything. So I just add the 13, 16. Okay. Now after the 13, I believe certain numbers cause other numbers to hit. After the 13, many times the 2, the 4, or the 6 will hit. Or the 15. The 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6, or 15 will hit within a very few spins after 13. So let's hope it's my 2. Well, that didn't work, did it? 24. That's the 12 split, which is the second dozen in the third column. So I put in the 21, 24, and that changes. It does not change my dozens, but it does change my columns. The number 2 column is now the oldest. Good grief. There goes all my bets. Okay, the 2 column is out, and I will put this over here again, since my 3 column is now where I can bet it. Now my 2, 4, 6, 13, 15 will probably hit. If that 2 hits, I'm just going to pack it in. What is that? The 1. Okay, that's the 1 split, which is the 1, 1. And so I will bet the 1, 4. The reason I was cackling is I almost put it on the 1. My 0 instead of on the 3. Anyway. Okay, that changes my splits. Now, I mean my dozens. Now my third dozen is the oldest, which doesn't matter. There's nothing there. And it does not change my columns. So I'm good to go. $19, is that right? By golly, it's about time. Okay, I rebet. Now the 19 is the 10, so I just put in my 10 and circle it, and that's the 2, 1. Of course, nothing changes because it's the same split. Now, that's one of those cases where the 22 right back here was what created that bet, and the 19 was what actually hit. So now if a person had a huge bankroll and they had some big cojones, you know, they could play this as a progression. And that gentleman named Normie gave me a very interesting progression where you just, when you're using dissimilar bets every time, not using the same numbers every time. And number 1, holy moly. And what Normie said was, keep track of your bets. Like here I'm betting 50 cents, so you'd have to keep track of something kind of hard to do. But just say, for instance, you were betting $2 on each split. Every time you went down $36, you would have to raise your bet. And you would do that and do that. You'd have to figure it out. I can't figure it in my head. But every time your total loss exceeds a certain amount, you increase your bet. And then when you hit, you go down 1. Like you go from 50 cents to $1 to $1.50 to $2, and then you hit, then you go back to $1.50, back to $1, back to 50 cents, depending on where your running total is. And I found that a very interesting thing to think about. There's a number 20, which is the 11 split, which is the second dozen, second column. So I'll put in the 20, 23. Now this changes something. What did it change? It did not change the dozens, but it did change the columns. Now the oldest column is the third column, so anything in the third column has to go. So I'll take him out. I'm going to put him there this time. And this, so anything in the third column has to go. This will be the last time on my 0. Be nice if that 1 had hit again. I could clean up on the 0 and the 1. 16. There's a winner. That's the number 7. And number 7 is the 2-1. Now I simply rebet, and my green on the screen let me down. So, but what I was saying a while ago about numbers hitting and then hitting again. So there's the 1 hit and it hit again. None of the others have, but I've played green on the screen for a long time and extended out with a progression. That always works. It has never failed. So green is no different than any other number on the wheel. If it'll work for green, it'll work for number 17. So that's why someday when I get a lot of money and Victor gets a lot of time, I'm going to ask him to write me this monster program. 32. That's the 17 split, which is the 3rd dozen, 2nd column. Okay, that changes some things. Now, I bet my 32-35. Now, that makes my 1st dozen the oldest. So, this guy's got to go. And it does not change my columns. So, I'm set there. Now, when I get this 1, and there's no more than 3 numbers between these 2 hits, the 1 and the 1, there can be 3 numbers but not 4. That means to me that numbers are doubling. And it has always been that after that you will find some doubles. You'll find some hits to hit and hit again. 31. Dirty bum. That's the 16 split, so I bet the 31-34. 16, which is the 3rd dozen and the 1. That changes nothing. Okay, now I got 10 numbers bet. I ought to get a hit on this. $16 or 32. 16 and 16 is 32. Number 7, that's the 4 split, which is number 1 dozen, number 1 column. Okay, that's going to change some things. So I put in the 710. Okay, that's going to make my number 2 dozen the oldest. So these 2 guys have to go, and it does not change my split. My 3rd split is still the oldest. Wait a minute. Whoa, I made a mistake somewhere. My 2nd dozen, he should be out in the 25. What did I take out? Son of a gun. Okay, the 22 is the 10, which is the 2, 1. Okay, and I bet the 19. Ah, shoot. 7, 10, 13, 16, 19, 22, 32, 35, 31, 34. Okay, now then, I take out the 3rd dozen. Crap. And I take it, no, the column's still the same. I think I made a mistake a while ago. I'm going to put the 25, 28 back in. I think that's the number 13 split. No, that sure wasn't right. Take him out. Too late. Number 5. 2, 5. Okay. Number 5 is the 2 split, which is the first dozen and the second column. That doesn't change anything. I don't know what I did back there, but I think I made a mistake, so I'm putting an M on my paper, and I'm going to go back and look and see if I took off the wrong number. I took off everything in the second dozen. Yep. Son of a gun. Well, fellers, it just isn't my day. Couldn't get much closer to 0, could you? Number 14 split, which is the third dozen, second column. I put in the 26, 29. And what does that change? Okay, that makes me take out everything in the second dozen, which would be these two. And let's see, it does not change my column. I have had the same column, or the third column sleep 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 times. 11 times without a third column. So the martingale players could get on that one. $24. That's the 12 split, which is the second dozen, third column. There's the third column. So 21, 24. That changes. I have to take out everything in my first dozen now, because it's dead. And I'll move this guy over to here. And I have to take out everything in my first column, which is nothing there anyway, so well, no matter what I play, it's just the same old thing. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Sometimes Norman stands there and shoots the bull. $22. The number 10, which is the second dozen, first column. Okay, that 1922. Okay, that makes my second dozen, second column rather, the oldest. So these have to go out of my second column. There's my 22 repeated right there. I'm going to stay until that green is off the screen, and then that's it. This just isn't my day. number 5, of course, number 5, which is the 2, which is the 1 and the 2. So I bet the 2, 5. And let's see, that makes my third dozen obsolete. There's nothing there anyway. Makes my third column obsolete. Well, this has just been a bummer. God almighty. Six is the number 3 split, which is the 1, 3. And that makes the number 1 column obsolete. So this guy has to go. And since the 1 column, I'll put him back over here. Number 12, which is the 6 split, which is the first dozen, third column. Doesn't change anything, so I'll put in the 9, 12. Up, oh, son of a gun, that was in the 0 hole. Ah, shoot, number 17, third dozen, second column. Okay, that changes. It doesn't change the columns, but it changes the dozens. Now my second dozen, well, there's nothing there anyway, so it doesn't make any difference. Second dozen's the oldest. There it is. There that son of a gun is, finally. Now just rebet. Now, the bad thing about playing this green on the screen is you're stuck there for 10 spins, because once you see it, you got to bet it. Because I've seen them 4 times, not in a row, but I've seen a marquee with 4 zeros on it. So, and that is the 30, which is the 15 split, which is the third dozen, third column. That does not change anything. So I just bet the 27.30. Where's my 2-5? It's been beating me to death all day. $35. Number 17 split, which is a 3-2. And all I do is rebet. $30. 23. Okay, the 23 is the 11 split, which is second dozen, second column. So nothing really changes. Oh, wait a minute. I messed up on my first dozen. Those shouldn't be there. Almost made a mistake, but I caught it in time. Now they'll probably hit. Is that the 25? Yep. Okay. Okay, the 25 is the 13 split, which is the third dozen, first column. Okay, that doesn't change my dozens. Bet the 25, 28. But it does change my columns. The third column is now the oldest. So the third column goes out. And I'm going to move him right here. Where's my first dozen still good? No, it's not. The first dozen's not good. Okay. Yeah, that's 32. Okay, that's a 17 split, which is a 3-2. There's a case where the 35 and 32, the 35 created the split right here, and the number repeated, you'll notice. And then the 32 was not the number that created it, but it's the number that paid off. So there's that pesky 7 again. That's the 4 split, which is the 1-1. Okay, that changes my dozens. Okay, I put in the 7-10. Okay, now my oldest dozen is the 2, so my 2023 has to go out. Oh, this has been a rough trip. It's just like the first video I made for the gut. Everything that could go wrong did. So let's see if we can get a repeat on the 7. $10. That's pretty good. Still down nearly $30. You know, one other way to play this thing might be to, when a number hits, stay with that split until the number is off the screen. Number 8. That's the 5 split, which is the 1, 2. Changes nothing, so I just put in the 8, 11. Yeah, I'm down just about $30 right now. Come on, 0. No, I don't want the 0. I'd have to stay another 10 spins. I want the 25. That's a 23. Bigger than Dallas. God dang it. That's the 11 split, which is the 2, 2. It doesn't change my columns, but it does my dozens. Okay, rebet. I put in the 20 and the 23. Now I have to take out everything in the third dozen because he's the oldest. And there they go. Last spin unless the 0 hits. Number 30? No, number 12. Yep. Leaves me with 122.82. That's a bad trip. So, I'm going to quit.